I've been vegan for 15 years. I went vegan in 2001. I went swimming with I was snorkeling, and I went snorkeling with some fish and some turtles, and it was just beautiful. It was a bit like being with birds, but in water. It was like upside down flying. And I went back on board the ship that we were on, and there was this huge spread of dead fish and seafood, like crabs, and they were just all dead, like piles of them. And it just suddenly got me. I just felt this kind of lump in my throat, like I couldn't swallow, and I didn't want to eat them, so I just stopped. And I was vegetarian for a long time. I was vegetarian for about 17 years before that. But then I went back to eating meat. I got some very bad advice, so I went back to eating meat, and then the fish thing happened, and I just thought, got to go vegetarian again. And then I just went on the internet for about 2 months, just like read books and read websites, and thought, what am I doing? This is crazy. Why are we doing this to animals? And then 2 months later, I was vegan. So it was, although it seemed quick, I think it seemed like a sudden thing for some of my friends and family. Actually, I had been thinking about it for quite a long time, and it was almost like something just suddenly, the light bulb moment went. It had been simmering in the background for quite a long time, I think.
So is your family all vegan?
No, I mean, I think people have this idea that, like most vegans are these pure people that kind of come out of their mother's wombs, fully fledged vegans. In my experience, most people I know, they grew up eating meat with their family. So animal products were just part of the diet, and they were mine as well. My family are from Scotland and from the north of England and the Midlands. They're working class, they're very ordinary, and they just believe that meat is a sign of prosperity and doing good by your family, and if you're doing well, that you eat meat, that kind of thing. And they just don't really understand the veggie thing at all. So they're not at all vegetarian or certainly not vegan. They don't really get it. But I am actually the healthiest person in my family. So I try not to be too smug, but I just am. And I'm sure a lot of it's got to do with my diet, my lifestyle.
What about your children?
I don't have children. Oh. No, I have a dog who's also vegan.
And do you ever buy some meat-free meat in supermarket?
Meat-free meat? Yes, I do sometimes. Yeah, I mean sometimes I make it at home. Like I make seitan, gluten, like using Chinese cooking. I use that a lot sometimes.
Tofu?
No, it's gluten. I don't know what you call it. It's made. It's like alternative chicken. It's been around for thousands of years in China and Japan. So I make that at home sometimes. Or I buy it. I use tofu, I use veggie sausages and burgers sometimes. It depends, but I love vegetables and fruit. I love whole grains. I love pulses, beans and lentils and peas. So I eat a really varied diet.
Is it difficult to home make some vegetarian meat?
No, it's very easy actually. I've got a load of recipes on our website. It's Seitan, I think is the Japanese name. I don't know what the Chinese call it in Chinese, but it's Seitan. But lots of jokes about the devil, Satan. So I just buy what's called vital gluten flour, and I just flavour it, mix it up into the dough, knead it, and then form it into meatballs or sausages and stuff, and it's delicious, really good.
What do you think about products that you bought from supermarkets? We got some big brands, some meat-free brands. What do you think about that?
I think they play a part. I mean, I use them occasionally. I don't use them all the time, but I think that for people who are making the transition, I think they're really important foods. And I think particularly if you've got, say, only one vegan or veggie in the family, it means that the person who's doing the cooking can make something that is kind of acceptable to everybody. So I buy corn vegan pieces now, because they've now got vegan chicken pieces, and I put those in stews. And people eat them, they think they're eating chicken, and it's something that's recognisable and it's not too scary and weird. So I think that obviously veggie sausages, if you have a barbecue, it's just really handy to be able to buy something from the shop, put it on a barbecue, and just eat, instead of eating the chicken or that your friends are eating, you eat the veggie vegan stuff, and I just think that they've got a really good part to play.
But do you think it's good for people's health because they are processed food?
I think it's a good point. I mean, to be honest, I think compared to the damage that meat and dairy do to the body, the human body, I mean, it's like vegans have got the lowest rates of heart disease, cancers, all the big killers, all the diabetes type 2, obesity. We have lower rates of cancers, way down. So meat and dairy are the big problems, and actually even fish is so polluted, and the fish and the oceans are over polluted. And meat and dairy also cause so much chaos in the environment, so much damage to the environment. I think that the odd bit of processed food it pales into insignificance compared to the damage that meat does to our body and to our planet, and also to the animals. I just think that people come to veganism from different places, and I think that I just basically say, look, you can make this or you can buy that, and people need to find their own way through it. Obviously, I wouldn't want to eat those foods every day, but I think as an occasional treat, they're absolutely fine. And I think if they make life easier for someone who's trying to go vegan or veggie, then I think they're brilliant. And they save animals. Nobody dies. That's the thing. Nobody dies, which is great, isn't it?
But compared with homemade vegetarian meat, which one do you suggest people to?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, some people love to cook from scratch, and other people can't be bothered. So I think I personally like to make my own stuff. I just enjoy it a lot. But there are times when I'm really, really busy, and I think most people's lives are like that. So if you're busy, buy something from the supermarket. If you're not busy, make something at home and maybe freeze it if you can, so you have it healthy and fresh for another time. But it just depends what your life's like, really, doesn't it?
Have you tried any meat-free meats from supermarket?
Yeah.
Do you think that they contain lots of food additives?
They don't contain masses of additives. They're probably quite a lot of salt, and they're a little bit fattier than they might be. So the salt content, I think, is probably more of a problem, and that's why I say eat them occasionally as a treat. But I wouldn't eat them. I wouldn't have them every day or several times a week or anything. They're an occasional treat, and they're a convenience food. And like all convenience food, they're never going to be as healthy as home cooked food. But I think you have to put it into the bigger picture of if people ate more of those mock meats instead of real meat, they'd still be healthier. So, it's kind of a bigger picture. And also we'd be killing less animals, or we'd be creating less havoc to the environment as well. So I think the bigger picture is they're fine occasionally.
So what's your suggestions for beginner? They just start their vegan style. What's your cooking suggestions?
Well, I would say start with things that you already know. So, for example, if you like things like chili or spaghetti bolognese or stir fry, try them, but use kind of vegan ingredients instead. So instead of, say, chicken, maybe use some corn pieces, or use some tofu, fry up some tofu, or what else could you use? Use some veggie strips, kind of like fake chicken strips you could put in. If you like chili, it's very easy to make chili without meat. You can use Vegemins, or you can just use whole lentils, which are fantastic and really good for you. And instead of using vegan cheese, dairy cheese, you could use a vegan cheese. Instead of using, like dairy sour cream and with a chili, like Mexican food, you could make, you could buy or make your own sour cream. So things like that, just kind of veganise things that you already know. Pasta's a very easy thing to make vegan. And then start experimenting, maybe once a week or once a month, whenever you've got time. Try a new recipe and maybe try and integrate a new ingredient that you've not used before. Give that a go. So maybe try nutritional yeast flakes, or if you've not had much luck with tofu before, try using tofu. And think about that. You don't have to do everything at once. I think that's the thing. And that actually a lot of food is already vegan. People just don't think of it like that. Baked beans on toast, big British favourite. That's vegan. That's easy to make vegan. Lots of things are already vegan, or they can be made vegan with a very simple twist. So I think that would be my advice, really.
And how to make a balance of their eating, because you need a lot of nutrition from vegetables, and sometimes people don't know how to make their eating healthy.
Well, I think there's an awful lot of information out there. It's very easy to find out. I mean, I work for a vegan charity, and the people that do the health department of that charity, they've got masses of resources that are all free. So if you go online, you can find out about protein, where you get your protein from in plant foods, where you get your iron, your calcium, and your B12, and all those things that people worry about. The fact is that if you eat a balanced diet, lots of different foods, nuts, seeds, beans, peas, lentils, whole grains like quinoa and brown rice, lots of green vegetables, and all those things. If you eat a broad spectrum of food, it's almost impossible to be deficient. You'd have to be really trying very hard. And in terms, people worry about protein in the West, but it's almost impossible to be protein deficient in the West. And the only people that are people with eating disorders, because they just don't get enough calories in their diet per day. So, and because they're not eating enough of anything, so they just don't get enough protein, and so they get ill. But people in poorer countries where they get protein deficiency, it's because they don't have enough food usually, or they have a very limited range of foods. Where in the West, we're incredibly lucky. We can go to a shop and we can buy just about anything. It's so easy to be vegan in the West. People make such a big deal, but I don't know why. It's so easy. And really, if you just use a bit of common sense and you know where to look on the internet, just get some advice. It's pretty straightforward. There's lots of information out there to help you. So just ask. Just ask.
Have you heard about a rainbow food? Just you need to take different colors of vegetables.
Oh, that's a really good one. My boss talks about that. She says put a rainbow on your plate. You're absolutely right. The idea that if you eat lots and lots of vegetables, so you eat red ones, yellow ones, orange ones, lots of dark green ones, purple ones like berries, and you eat a broad spectrum of those, that's immediately going to put you in a really healthy position. You're going to be fighting off all the kind of pollutants and all the kind of nasty things that can make you get ill. Your body will, those plants will protect your body and your health massively. So yeah, get a rainbow plate. It's a very good one.
So you're from Scotland?
Originally, I don't sound Scottish because I got moved around a lot. I lost my accent, but yes, I'm from Glasgow originally. And Scotland traditionally has quite a poor diet. They have some of the highest rates of obesity, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, huge diabetes problem up there. And I grew up with a lot of that food, but I kind of learned early on that actually there's probably better ways of eating, and I just was very interested in food and cooking, and I kind of taught myself from books really. And I was hanging out with lots of people with all these new ideas back in the 70s and stuff and 80s. So I kind of educated myself, and so I don't eat at all like my family, I don't eat like I grew up either. The only thing that my mum did teach me very well was that she was very big on fresh vegetables, and so was my grandmother. They both cooked a lot from scratch, and they cooked a lot of fresh vegetables. And I think, although there was a lot of other stuff that wasn't so good, I kind of learned that home cooking was always going to be good, and if you could learn to do that and do it well, then you could look after yourself a bit better and eat better. Because I'm greedy, I really like food.
So you suggest people to make their own food at home rather than eating out?
I think if you can. I mean, I think for some people it's a bit daunting. I think they get a bit scared of it. It's like I think we've become a bit. Some people have got into cooking from watching TV programs. Some people get inspired by watching TV programs and thinking, I want to go and make that now. But other people just get a bit scared by it. I think they think, I could never do that. And actually, if they spent half an hour, 40 minutes, they could create some really amazing meals in their kitchen without it having to be really fancy and kind of, like the TV stuff. They could learn to cook simply and very well and feed themselves and their families really well and very cheaply. But you just need to just start off simple, learn a few basic recipes, and then just keep trying new ones when you've got time. I think, to be honest, if you're going to watch a TV cookery program for an hour, you could have made a meal in that time. So I'm not saying don't watch television or anything. I think television's great fun, but I think every now and again, rather than watch somebody do something, do it yourself. Have a go at it yourself and have a bit of fun in the kitchen and put the music on and dance around and chop a few vegetables and make something nice. It's really good fun. It's very relaxing to do as well.
And it's easier to control because you can choose your own ingredients and how much salt, how much sugar you put in.
Absolutely, yes, you can control it, and that's really important because when you buy ready-made foods, they do often really up the salt and the sugar to make cheap ingredients taste better. So that's where if you're cooking from fresh and you're using quite good quality ingredients, you can make your own flavours without having to resort to too much salt and sugar. You're quite right.
And are you full-time job to work for Viva?
Yeah, it's part-time actually. I work part-time. I seem to work quite a bit more, just mainly because I like it. And there's it's a very exciting time to be vegan at the moment. There's lots of interest in the vegan movement. There's lots of people wanting to try vegan food. And lots of companies and restaurants are now offering vegan food that never used to do. And it feels like it's starting to, things have shifted hugely. It's a really great time to be around it. And it's kind of, so I'm even busier than usual, which is great.
And what's your full-time job?
Well, I only have a part-time job.
Oh,
yeah,
you take
old,
lots of...
So, yeah, I used to work full-time, but now I just work part-time. So, but when I was working part-time, I still managed to write a cookery book, and I still do, and I do other events. I do events around the UK with Viva, sometimes not with Viva. do all sorts of stuff really. Yeah, I just love it. It's great. And I like getting people, helping them to learn to cook. And when they suddenly realise that they can cook something really good and it's not that difficult, and they go, oh wow, I can do that. It's a nice feeling.
What's your job basically about? Is just teach other people vegan?
Yeah, my job is called the Food and Cookery Coordinator for Viva. So anything to do with food. My job involves, I wrote a cookbook. I maintain the Vegan Recipe Club website. I do a lot. I put recipes and blog on that and do different things. What else do I do? I do cookery demos.
Just wait for a minute.
That's a young person.
够2个存完了。
就是你刚刚一直没录。
后来用手机。Do you want to stay here or do you want to move? I think it'd be alright.
Is there?
Yes, go.
讲的超级久，这空气不错。
If I sit on this end.
可以写个专访。
See how we get on. Right. If you want me to repeat something, then I'll just repeat it. Ask me again. I'll do it again.
Just the part that we talk about your job.
Okay, so my job involved, I'm the Food and Cookery Coordinator for Viva, which is a vegan charity, and that involves things like anything from doing cookery demos at shows, so people come to learn how to cook a dish, and I'll do that. Sometimes I teach other people how to do cookery demos, so if they're part of, say, a small regional vegan veggie group, and they're running their own events. They want to have some people in their group who can show other people how to cook. So I'll teach them how to teach other people how to cook. So I wrote the Viva cookbook, run the website, I do a blog.
That's fine.
I do things like I contact food manufacturers, ask them to improve their vegan range. I talk to supermarkets about having more vegan options, talk to restaurants, like chain restaurants, as well as independent local businesses and things like that. So anything to do with food. If people ask me how to go vegan, I have a whole load of stuff to give them. I run one of Viva's resources called the 30-Day Vegan, where people can sign up. It's a free service, and they get like a recipes and food for every day for 30 days, so they can go vegan in a month. So basically anything to do with food. People ask me questions about how to cook things all the time, so I write lots of email queries, I answer lots of emails. So yeah, lots of things.
Do you think your job that have a big impact to vegans' life?
I think not just my job. I think Viva generally, although not everyone's heard of us, but we've done a lot of is actually we've raised a lot of issues in the media. So people will read, say for example, my boss does undercover exposés of factory farms, and we've done undercover, and we've exposed, say, supermarkets to say that their meat is coming from, good quality farms and abattoirs, and we actually show the reality of that. So I think that what our ideas about dairy, about the meat industry, about the environment are percolating out, they're spreading out. We've done a lot, I think, to influence people's ideas, even if they didn't realise those ideas came from us. And also we just basically do education all the time, so we have resources for people. If there's a local group that does a street stall, they'll often get our resources and put them on their table. So we make leaflets, we have a magazine, we have information, we have health information documents and things like that, reports and guides. So we actually provide an awful lot of stuff for people, and that way we're kind of influencing ideas. So I think what, not just what I do, I think what the organisation as a whole is really important. And my role as a food person is very much part of that. With people, they maybe learn about the environmental impact of what they're eating, or the health impact, or the impact on animals, and they decide they don't want to do it. And then they think, well, how do I not eat those foods anymore? So that's where I come in. So that's where I come in. So I say to them, this is how you can go vegan, it's easy. This is how you can keep your husband or your partner, your children happy when they want to eat meat. So that's what I do. I basically help them. If they decide that they don't want to eat meat or fish or dairy anymore, I help them, I show them the alternatives. Is that okay?
Yeah. How long have you been working for Viva?
I've worked for Viva since 2004, so I was vegan for 3 years before that, but Viva was one of the first groups I came across when I first went vegan, started finding out about the whole vegan movement. And I read a book called The Silent Arc, and it was written by my boss, Juliet Galatman. And it had a huge impact on me. It kind of clarified lots of things in my head. And they were one of the first groups I joined. And then when they left their offices in Brighton to go to Bristol, I was like, wow. And then I started doing voluntary work for them, and I ended up getting a job there. So I stalked them essentially until I got a job. I used to be an English teacher, so I left English teaching, and I ran away and joined the vegans. That's what I did, yeah, that's what I've been doing ever since. It's a great job, and I work with some brilliant people. I'm really lucky, I love it.
Yeah. So when did you start to teach people cooking?
Well, I'm a self-taught cook. I've had no professional training, so I've always cooked since I was quite young. I lived with my dad on my own, and I had to sort of learn how to cook for him and me. So I taught myself, and first of all, it wasn't very good, and then I started reading recipe books and got a bit better. So I've always taught myself cooking, and I just realised I learned a lot of things about how not to do things as well as how to do things, because you learn by your mistakes, don't you? And I wasn't qualified to teach cooking. It was just something I ended up doing for Viva, because I could teach, because I'd been a teacher for a long time, but just not a cookery teacher. And I was an enthusiastic cook, and I just wanted to show other people that they could cook as well, and it wasn't that scary, and you didn't have to be a super chef to do it either. So yeah.
Do you remember when's the first time you cook as a little girl?
A little girl. Well, I was about 12 or 13 or something, and it was probably something like a big fry-up, like a big meat fry-up, like that was sausages and bacon and eggs, because that's what people ate then. I might have made that, or I might have made, I don't know, spaghetti or something like that, something quite simple. Or it might have been something out of a packet, because I couldn't cook very well. So, and I think it was because I realised if I was going to eat well, I had to learn to cook, because we were quite poor when I was a kid. And if we were going to eat well, then I had to learn to cook, so I could cook from scratch. So that's what I had to do. So yeah, so I can't remember the exact dish, but I did learn to cook, and I got books in the library to get better, because I couldn't afford to buy books. So.
Okay, thank you very much.